It is 9:44 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's the 13th day of November 2025, and this is episode, I believe it's 1210 of Bitcoin, and the Czech central bank has bought Bitcoin. A central bank has actually purchased Bitcoin. Not a lot of Bitcoin, but a central bank has actually done the deed. It's actually purchased Bitcoin. We're certainly going to talk about that one, but we've got other things too. We've got a news story about something called Hesperides University. How about a master's in Bitcoin? I don't know. Maybe it's nothing, but you know, hey, at least they're trying. Short-term funding bill, I guess passed. We'll find out together, I promise. And BitDeer catches on fire. It was only a matter of time, if it hasn't already happened, it was only a matter of time before a Bitcoin mining facility goes up in flames. And I'm not talking metaphorically either, brothers and sisters. CashApp has turned on yet a new feature about Bitcoin, which I thought was already there, but I guess it wasn't. We'll talk about it. Merchants, speaking of CashApp, do they really give a shit about the technology that's underneath it? Do they really? Do they have time? We'll find out. OpenAI, you've probably seen it already, but if you haven't, you'll understand all about it in the second part of the show. And then we're going to end with burning millions of dollars just to prove a point in some kind of performance play is, in my opinion, beyond the stupidity of gambling. It is a calculated loss to prove a point. Sometimes I just freaking hate people. And while I'm on that subject, chastity belts are coming back into play. Well, before we get into the news, this is just something that I saw on Twitter. Bitcoin Becca reposted some tweet that's there's a company that has designed a chastity belt / underwear for women so that they don't get raped in Europe. Instead of dealing with border issues, we're just going to shame women again like we did in medieval times. And that's my whole point. What is a chastity belt? People go, well, was in the medieval times, the knights and the kings, they didn't want their ladies to have sex with anybody else. I'm not exactly sure that that's entirely the point of the chastity belt. I'm just going to posit here that maybe it is being able to force somebody to wear shame. The fact that you are the way that you are, the fact that you have this type of physiology clearly means that we've got to lock this shit away. Is this really where we want to go? As a society, as a modern society, are we really going to get back on horseback, dressed in plates of armor, and have, jousting tournaments? Really? Is this really where we're going? And I'm not lying about this. This is an actual honest to God thing. It's like, except it's not made out of metal. It's made out of, I don't know, some kind of really weird, durable, I don't know, maybe it's carbon fiber or something, but knives can't cut through it, and scissors, shears and shit can't cut through it. And it's a bizarre demonstration in this video that was in this tweet that Bitcoin Becca reposted. It's sad. And I mean, it's like they were showing the gear in it, and there's actual locking mechanisms, and I think I actually saw a fucking padlock. This is not the way I wanted to spend my Thursday waking up, dudes. Just is like I said, people suck. Really, you can't keep your hands off the ladies. You're that weak. My God almighty, what have we become? Maybe Bitcoin will change some of this attitude of absolute desperate denigration. Who knows, man? But the people of Czechoslovakia, no, it's not Czechoslovakia anymore. I keep making that mistake. I grew up with Czechoslovakia as a thing. It's not Czechoslovakia anymore. It's the Czech Republic. So in the Czech Republic, the Czech central bank has bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Not 1 million Bitcoin. No. $1 million worth of Bitcoin. And at today's prices, we're talking about 10, maybe they got like, at the time they bought it, maybe they got like 8.5, 9.25. We'll find out. This is from Jan Lopatka out of Reuters writing this one. The Czech central bank said on Thursday that it bought $1 million of Bitcoin and other blockchain-based digital assets, read that as shitcoins, to gain experience with digital markets and will evaluate the project in, 2 or 3 years. The portfolio is mostly made up of Bitcoin, but also includes US dollar-based stablecoins and a tokenized deposit. Remember, pausing to say, remember we were talking about JPM coin? That's a tokenized deposit. So did they buy JPM coin? I don't know. Anyway, it was all bought through a regulated exchange without giving specifics on the market used or the exact assets. Anyway, quote, the purpose of the portfolio is to gain a practical experience with holding digital assets and to implement and test the necessary related processes, the bank said. It will be held separately from the bank's internal reserves, or rather international reserves, and will not be actively increased. Quote, in the test portfolio, the central bank will test the whole chain of processes associated with the purchase, holding, and management of digital assets, from technical administration of keys and multi-level approval processes through crisis scenarios and security mechanisms to verifying anti-money laundering compliance, the bank said. And Governor Ales Mikkel, who originally floated the idea of looking at Bitcoin back in January, said new ways of making payments and investments were emerging and the bank wanted to be ready. Quote, it's realistic to expect that in the future it will be easy to use the crown to buy tokenized Czech bonds and more besides, with one tap, an espresso, with another, an investment such as a bond or other asset that used to be the preserve of larger investors, Mikkel said in a statement. Quote, as a central bank, we want to test this path. The bank will be doing transactions with the portfolio for purposes of the experiment. The portfolio's value may change over time due to price fluctuations, and composition may change by the bank testing purchases of other digital assets. The bank said it would assess the project, leaving open the question of whether digital assets could become part of reserves in the future and in what form. The CNB's first idea of looking at Bitcoin for reserves received a cold reception from the European Central Bank, whose president, Christine Lagarde, if you don't know, she was convicted in France in a federal court of a crime. She's a convicted felon. Okay, but she's, president of the European Central Bank. Let's just be very clear about who we're talking about here. Anyway, sorry. Christine Lagarde said she believed Bitcoin would not become reserve assets of any EU members. Although the Czech Republic does not use the euro, it is part of the European Union and its system of central banks. Buying the digital asset outside reserves, however, was compliant with Czech and European legislation, the central bank said. The ECB declined to comment. I can't imagine why. The Czech bank said on Thursday it could already invest in Bitcoin in line with legal requirements through an exchange-traded fund, but this was not now on the agenda due to Bitcoin's short track record and other characteristics, making it, for now, an immature asset. So here's the gist. The Central Bank of Czech Republic did buy Bitcoin. It's a test. It is in a portfolio. It will be sold. It will be traded. They're not planning on adding any more Bitcoin to it. So while they have, in fact, bought Bitcoin, it's probably not for the reasons that people will be talking about on Twitter or Nostr or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. So be clear about the intentions of the Czech Republic's central bank. They're not building a Bitcoin strategic reserve, but they are the first European Union member state to actually purchase Bitcoin, and that we can't just sweep under the rug. And maybe they'll hire some people out of Hesperides University one day who has launched the world's first global master in Bitcoin. Bitcoin Magazine's Micah Zimmerman reporting Hesperides or Hesperides, whatever, University today announced the launch of the Master in Bitcoin, the world's first English language higher education program dedicated solely to Bitcoin studies, according to a note shared with Bitcoin Magazine. And the program marks a milestone in the academic recognition of Bitcoin as a serious field of study. Unlike most universities, which group Bitcoin under broader, quote, crypto or blockchain programs, Hesperides has created a curriculum focused entirely on just Bitcoin, its technology, the economics, societal impact. The program is aimed at professionals, entrepreneurs, and researchers seeking a deeper understanding of Bitcoin and its global ecosystem. Quote, Bitcoin deserves its academic space, said Kristina Mazankova, director of the Master of Bitcoin. Quote, for years, universities has treated Bitcoin like a side topic, lumped together with speculation and short-lived trends. This program stands apart. It's a declaration that Bitcoin deserves serious academic attention as both a revolutionary technology and a tool for human freedom. The curriculum combines academic rigor with practical experience. Students will explore Bitcoin from multiple angles, including monetary theory, philosophy, journalism, energy, cryptography, and economics. Courses will be taught by a global faculty of educators and active professionals in the Bitcoin world. Quote, the Master in Bitcoin embodies our vision of independent education rooted in intellectual freedom. We want to create a space where open minds can research, question, and collaborate on Bitcoin without ideological bases, said Gabriel Caldoza Alvarez, the rector, not director, but the rector of Hesperides University. Makes me wonder if Hesperides is has a religious bent to it, because generally speaking, rector is associated with religious institutions, but I digress. The program is fully online. It's designed to accommodate working professionals. Enrollment opens January 2026 with early access available through the university website. Hesperides is also inviting educators and Bitcoin experts to join the program as faculty, mentors, and guest lecturers. Candidates with experience in economics, finance, journalism, mining, security, and cryptography can apply online. By creating a formal academic framework for Bitcoin, Hesperides aims to bridge professional practice and scholarly understanding. Mazankova will serve as the director of the Master in Bitcoin, and before joining the Bitcoin industry in 2019, she built a career in technology and corporate communications, later leading communications at Satoshi Labs, and heading public relations at BTC Inc., according to a note shared with Bitcoin Magazine. At Hesperides University, she is helping to create a new kind of higher education that treats Bitcoin as a transformative social, technological, and economic phenomenon. So it's an online program, and University of Phoenix has kind of left a bitter taste in many people's mouths about online education. So you're just going to have to take this with whatever grain of salt you want. But it's there. It's sort of like the Czech Republic, the central bank. They actually bought Bitcoin. It may not be exactly how we wanted them to buy Bitcoin or for the reasons that we wanted them to buy Bitcoin, but they did buy Bitcoin. And here we have a university, whether it's online only or brick and mortar, I'm not exactly sure, but they have a master's in Bitcoin. It's framed as academic. and scholarly. So Bitcoin marches on no matter what the hell the price is doing today. And I think that we are seeing some losses in Bitcoin today because we've got a couple of pieces of news. One, let's go back to the Czech Republic buying Bitcoin. That is definitely a sell the news event because, it doesn't matter. And I've said this before. It took me a long time to understand this. It doesn't matter if the news is good or bad about anything. If there is an asset attached that can be sold when news that might affect that asset comes out, people just sell. It doesn't matter if the news is good. It doesn't matter if the news is bad. That's not the point. It seems to be a structural it seems to be infrastructure about trading that, well, I own this oil company's stock, and this oil company just announced that they found a whole shit ton more oil, and that company is going to be able to grow in perpetuity. My reaction as somebody who holds that stock, if I follow what I've seen, is I immediately sell the whole fucking thing. Because, that makes sense, right? I know that there's probably you sell it all because that's the cycle, and therefore you will get more back when you wait for the bottom and buy it. But that necessitates that you're actually watching what the hell is going on. The other piece of news is what we're about to get into right now. Trump signs bill to reopen the U.S. government as Congress suddenly ramps up crypto work. This is Nicholas Day writing for Cointelegraph. Trump signed a short-term funding bill about for 3 months. Okay. We're just kicking the can down the road, y'all. But a short-term funding bill has been signed by Trump to reopen the government late Wednesday after a majority of the U.S. House of Representatives voted in favor of ending the record-breaking 42-day shutdown. The government looked set to remain shut down for the foreseeable future before a group of Senate Democrats and the majority of Senate Republicans voted in favor of the roughly 3-month funding measure late Sunday, giving up their key demands to end the shutdown, but forcing a failed vote on the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The lengthy shutdown slowed the U.S. government's progress on crypto, but legislators have signaled efforts to continue working on legislations that affect it. The final vote was 222 to 209, with 216 Republicans and 6 Democrats voting in favor of the funding measure, which will last through the end of January 2026. Trump signed the bill just after 10 p.m. Eastern Time, barely 2 hours after the House vote. Just this week, the Senate Agriculture Committee published an initial draft bill for their part of key market structure legislation that would define the Commodity Futures Trading Commission's role in overseeing crypto spot markets, and we've talked about that before. So, just to be clear here, the government is now open, and that should have kicked a whole bunch of stuff in the pants, but it's not. My suspicion is that it didn't, because it didn't solve the problem like it normally does, right? Like, for instance, we now have a full budget. We can just, we don't have to worry about anything until the next time that we have to do a budget. No, we got to worry about this thing 3 months from now. So just understand I wholeheartedly believe that between the sell the news aspect and this story reminds me of Jerome Powell cutting the federal funds rate by 0.25% the other day, and then had hawkish language on the other side of that saying, don't expect a cut in December. And we wanted another cut in December. So that tempered everything. This is the same kind of thing here. It said, oh, we've now broken the federal lockdown or whatever, the shutdown, but only for 3 months. So it's that exact same kind of tempering where you get what you want, but you didn't get everything that you want. And there's hawkish language on the other side of it. It just serves to squelch everything down. So when we run the numbers, we'll find out what kind of damage we're looking at. But first, you might want to go over to oshigood.us. He's got 3 crunchy coffee HODL butters in stock right now. If you don't know what, well, crunchy coffee HODL butter is, this is glorious. It's think peanut butter, but it's not made out of peanuts, right? So ingredients are pecans, maple sugar, roasted Arabica, coffee grounds, sea salt flakes, cinnamon, and black pepper. It's his usual HODL butter. It's got roasted coffee grounds in it, and it imparts a hell of a flavor to this whole thing. If you're thinking like Jiffy peanut butter, don't. Jiffy peanut butter's got so much freaking sugar in it, it's not even funny. There's no added sugar in here. Except for the maple sugar, but there's not like high fructose corn syrup or anything like that. And he doesn't do that. He's part of the Circle P family of vendors, and he sells his goods and services for Bitcoin. Go to oshigood.us and grab some of this stuff, man. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Treat it like peanut butter. Put it on toast. But you know, one of the other things that I saw somebody do, they put a dollop on it like they would put a dollop of butter on a freshly cooked steak. It was a beautiful ribeye, and they threw a dollop of this stuff right on top of it. Now, I didn't taste it because it's a picture and it was on Nostr, so I can't even smell it. But they swear up and down it was delicious. And it was very surprising just how good the flavors meld with steak, which doesn't surprise me because sea salt, maple sugar, pecan, cinnamon, black pepper. Honestly, I could see that. I could definitely see that. Go to oshigood.us, pick yourself up some crunchy coffee HODL butter, use the code Bitcoin, and as a coupon code, that lets Oshi know that I made a sale for him. And here at the Circle P, it is the only value for value advertising model anywhere in the world. And if I make a sale, Oshi can determine for himself what that sale was worth, and he will get me back on the other side with some Satoshis. All right, moving on to flaming deer. It's like Bambi running through the forest fire. Bit deer in flames. Ohio mining facility fire extends stock sell-off. Vince Quill, Cointelegraph. I shouldn't laugh because this is a lot of equipment that was lost. I just hope that nobody lost their life over it. But Bitcoin mining company BitDeer has confirmed that a fire broke out at its facility in Massillon, Ohio on Tuesday with no reported casualties. This is good. The fire affected 2 of 26 buildings under construction at the Massillon or Massillon. I can't, Massillon, pronounce it how you want. At the Massillon site, which does not have any mining rigs installed, according to an announcement on Wednesday. Oh, this is even better. Okay, so BitDeer said it does not expect the incident to impact the company's operational hash rate. The fire came amid financial and macroeconomic challenges for BitDeer and the broader mining industry in 2025 as the sector grapples with the impact of tariffs, rising energy costs, et cetera, et cetera. Shares of BitDeer declined 7.5% on Wednesday, trading at about $13.90 at the time of writing. Cointelegraph reached out to BitDeer, but has not received a response. Let's see. Is there anything else? No, that's about all there is on this story for the fire. It's interesting that the facility caught on fire, but there wasn't any mining rigs present in the newly constructed buildings. So it does make one wonder what the hell is flammable inside. The only thing I can think of is that they had a power failure and all the insulation off big, heavy gauged power lines basically went up in flames. And if you've ever seen insulation burn off of a electrical cable that's under duress, it's one hell of a sight to see. Let's run the numbers. CNBC futures and commodities. Energy's looking up. They're all in the green today. Brent North Sea is up 2/3 of a point to 63.13 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate up the same to 58.85. Natural gas is up 2.7% to $4.66 per thousand cubic feet. Gasoline up 2/3 to $1.96 a gallon, and Merbon crude is up just over a point to 65.27. Metals not doing well today. I guess we're all in the same boat over here. Palladium is down 1.8%. Gold is down 0.18%, but still clocking in at 42.06 and 2 dimes. Platinum is down 0.8%. Silver is down 2/3 of a point, and copper is down a scant. Then over to ag, where it's mostly in the red, but we got some green here. Biggest winner today is soybeans, 1.3% to the upside. Biggest loser is chocolate, 2.5% to the downside. I got live cattle down 1.5%. Lean hogs cratering 3.28% in the red. Ladies and gentlemen, McRibs are on the way. Feeder cattle down 1.81%. Indices are not reacting well to all this news either. The S&P is down 1 1/3. Holy shit. NASDAQ is down 1.8%. The Dow is down just over a point, and the S&P Mini is down 1 1/4 points. Sub $100,000 Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, here it is, 99,310, 290. Is it going to drop again while I'm looking at it? 280. I know we never like seeing this, but these are uncertain times and nobody knows what to do with their money. That's an issue even for what's been going on in the stock market, as you've just known or just saw. Market cap is now below $2 trillion, coming in at 1.98 trillion. We can only purchase 23.7 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our 1 Bitcoin, of which there are 19,948,138.66 of. Average fees per block are low, 0.02 BTC taken in fees on a per block basis. There's about 28 blocks carrying 64,000 transactions waiting to clear at both high and low priority rates of 1 Satoshi per VByte. Still in zettahash range though. 1.08 zettahashes per second is the current hash rate for the Bitcoin network. And as usual, that's more than enough security on the Bitcoin network for me, you, and our Bitcoin. From Texas Hold'em, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin, and I got 100 sats from somebody that I don't know. There's no name that's coming up. Jason High gives me 500 sats, says, thanks for the news we can use. Well, you're welcome, sir. And then KT with, 1,200 sats says, when you first reported the Cambodia pig slaughter story, I boosted. Oh, no, he boosted about an ex-user who linked the coins to vulnerable wallets. But I got a letter in his name wrong. No wonder you couldn't find it. This new information matches what Zach XBT was saying on his 10/14/25 post. This story is getting interesting, and I imagine it's much deeper than we'll ever know. Par for the course with the global deep state. Also, shorter episodes are fine if the daily news is light. Oh, I appreciate all your efforts, no matter the length. Well, thank you. That's some nice feedback. I can do something with that. Oak Grove with 941 sat says, it is wild the McRib was released in 1977. I first came across it when my family went to see Flintstones with John Goodman in the theaters and ate out, getting some of those sandwiches. It has had a warm spot in my heart ever since. Speaking of Delaware, does anyone know the other difference for corporations domiciled in Delaware versus any other state in the 49 states? People joke about a president being born from oil money, Southern corruption, or Chicagoland actors. What bore the president? I guess he's saying president. What bore the president that bore a Ukrainian gas company's board member? Oh yeah, Biden. Not posting to Nostr, as I have enough quotes to put me in the gulag already. Yeah. Hey, that's okay, Oak Grove. You're fine, dude. Nick Dose with 102 sats says, cheers. Mr. Sat Stacker with 5,000. Oh, dude. And that was actually from McBitcoin, which was the day before. He says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. God's Death with 237 says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. Tulips with 1,000 says, tulips. This cheap bastard prefers longer episodes. Longer like the sentence of the Chinese lady. These people are like the dog chasing the car. They caught it and they don't know what to do with it. I am not a criminal mastermind able to get my hands on all that corn, but I bet I can do a decent job enjoying it without getting caught. Let them play those games. Strike force teams and international detectives will be working for nothing. According to Preston Pish's new FUD, quantum computers will be cracking Bitcoin in 2 to 8 years and nothing can stop it. All your MSTR, SBR, and other Rs are just tulips and they are going to zero. Yeah, this quantum FUD is never going to go away. And it's honestly, it's not helpful. And most of it's just bullshit. Most of these people have no idea how quantum computing actually works, what it's really going to take to be able to crack the ECDSA encryption schema that we use to generate our private and public key pairs. We're not worried about it cracking SHA-256 as much as it, quantum cracking our private keys. SHA-256 is the hashing algorithm. ECDSA is the algorithm used to generate private keys. They are two different schemas. And yes, I agree. This Preston Pish FUD, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit and it needs to go away. Nakaz18 with 210 says, live aloha. And Pies with 121 sat says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. And that's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. CashApp now lets users pay in Bitcoin even without owning any. This is out of atlas21.com. CashApp has introduced a new feature that allows users to make transactions in US dollars using the Lightning Network infrastructure without the need to hold Bitcoin in their own wallet. Sounds like Strike. It actually sounds exactly like something Strike does. The feature enables users to send traditional currency from their available balance, which is automatically converted and transferred as Bitcoin to the recipient's wallet. This functionality mirrors that of Strike, which lets users spend USD, euros, Great British pounds, Australian dollars, and USDT over the Lightning Network. Users can now freely choose whether to complete a transaction using their existing Bitcoin balance or their fiat balance. Merchants will be able to receive Bitcoin via the Lightning Network while customers pay directly from their dollar balance. Payment options include USD to USD, Bitcoin to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to USD, or USD to Bitcoin, all powered by the Lightning Network. As part of a broader update, the app will also allow users to send and receive stablecoins. The service will primarily be available in the United States, although the app is already approved and operational in the UK. Earlier this week, Square rolled out Bitcoin payments for US merchants, allowing roughly 4 million sellers to accept BTC through their terminals with no processing fees until 2027. So leveraging the Lightning Network continues, and it does not surprise me if we find out that CashApp is actually using the back-end infrastructure of either Strike or they worked with Strike to build their own clone of that very same infrastructure, because Strike pioneered that and has been doing it for a long, long time. There's no reason in the world to reinvent the wheel. Speaking of merchants taking Bitcoin with CashApp, we got this one, which is actually written by the folks over at Spiral, and Spiral is part of CashApp and Square and the Jack Dorsey family of companies that have embraced Bitcoin. Headline is, merchants don't read white papers, they read cash flow statements. Our thesis is pretty simple. We can only make the case that Bitcoin is everyday money if people can spend it. Unfortunately, for most of Bitcoin's existence, this just hasn't been many places to spend it. But then something happened. Planets aligned, seas parted, nerds hooted and hollered from rooftops, and Block added support for Bitcoin payments to millions of Square sellers, making Bitcoin both ubiquitous and easy to activate. Suddenly, almost everyone is seconds away from accepting Bitcoin payments. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, well, except how merchants should accept Bitcoin payments isn't the only problem. Why merchants should accept Bitcoin payments. That's the boogeyman that we need to vanquish, and it always has been. How we do this? Sorry, I'm having some problems this morning. How we do this is more apparent and pragmatic than Bitcoin tropes about digital scarcity and immutability, neither of which will convert someone running an ice cream shop. What will motivate small business owners to accept Bitcoin payments is their bottom line. They're unlikely to be ideological. They're far more likely to be practical. And what's the most common problem in need of a practical solution faced by merchants that only Bitcoin can solve in a digital-only world? Credit card fees and the death of cash. Back when cash ruled everything around everyone, 3% credit card fees on every purchase was just a distant but frightening hypothetical. It was better time to run a small business, a time when everyone carried cash. Businesses universally accepted it, and margins were chonk. This is obviously no longer the case, and yet this is where it gets interesting. Credit card companies have been so successful at ridding the world of physical cash that they've created the perfect stage for the Bitcoin-minded to make the case for digital cash, a designation that still captures Bitcoin's benefits better than any other. It seems obvious, yet it bears repeating. If a small business's profit margins are around 6%, which they frequently are, that means credit card fees might eat more than half of their profits. Oops, right? That's the reality for millions of merchants. Oh, man. This is all window dressing, of course. Context written in the past tense so you can understand where we're coming from as we tell you where we're going. A universally true statement is that we trust the people we can relate to most. Small business owners, it naturally follows, will trust the experiences of other people running small businesses. This is why we're spearheading a peer-to-peer community exclusively for them, one that is Bitcoin service agnostic to promote the idea of Bitcoin as everyday money. It's called the Bitcoin Merchant Community, or the BMC for short. They've got a website, but more importantly, they also have a Facebook group. There, they'll find a like-minded community of business owners both around the corner and around the globe who want to take back the 3% that they lose to credit card fees. They don't need to be on Square either, because that won't work for everyone. However, getting the word out presents a problem. Most small business owners are too busy and not yet invested enough to do the heavy lifting necessary to jumpstart such a community, and that's understandable. So, what this initiative needs is passionate people to spread the word. People who are already invested, people who can really stand to get away from their computers for an hour or two. What it needs are Bitcoiners. Yes, you, the person reading this blog post or listening to me on the Bitcoin and podcast. Anyway, Bitcoin advocacy has been, up to this point, very online. It makes sense. Bitcoin is online, and online is where we all sort of live now, but for every level-headed and persuasive pro-Bitcoin post that makes it into a non-Bitcoiner's feed, there are 999 posts above and below attempting to suffocate it. Everything gets diluted online. Occasionally, something will break through and register with someone only to be forgotten about, 5 minutes later. Because of this, we realize that thoughtful, focused, in-person advocacy must play a central role in promoting Bitcoin and the Bitcoin merchant community. Advocacy that we think should come in two forms: regular in-person and weird in-person. Realistically, a customer showing up in person to talk about how Bitcoin solves the problem of 3% fees, memorable, definitely, though maybe a little But a customer showing up in person with two impossible to ignore, straight to the trash resistant leave behinds and a powerful focused argument, especially if that leave behind is bright orange, cuddly, and just as grumpy about 3% credit card fees as the merchants are. A leave behind that can be used at a register by merchants to tell patrons that, yes, we accept Bitcoin. Say what you will about the messenger, but they won't be forgetting the message, especially when they learn that thousands of others like them got the same one. Free onboarding leave behind kits are now available starting today directly from Bitcoin hubs across the United States. These include the following: Presidio Bitcoin in San Francisco, The Space in Denver, ATL BitLab in Atlanta, and of course, Bitcoin Park in Nashville and Austin. We expect to be doing even more free kit giveaways in the near future with more materials and creative assets for merchants that can be used to promote Bitcoin acceptance. But maybe you're uncomfortable approaching strangers with a grumped out, eyebrow-laden, bright orange plushie under your arm. That's not a problem. There's an approach for you too. Just download a merchant onboarding playbook plus the one-page leave behind combo pack from the Bitcoin merchant community. You don't even need to engage. You can just drop the ladder off. It's called a leave behind for a reason. Ultimately, trillions of Bitcoin transactions don't rest on the shoulders of the payer, but the payee. So grab a kit to print one out. Talk to a merchant. Help them with all the tech if you want to. You've already made Bitcoin what it is. Now it's up to all of us to make it what it could be. Everyday money. Cash in the digital age. So what are they talking about, this plushie? It's this grumpy looking plushie. It's like an orange Bitcoin with fluffy eyebrows and it looks kind of mean, and it's got a sour, doleful face on. But it's definitely Bitcoin. It's got the whole Bitcoin symbol on it and everything. I like this approach. I hope that it catches on and that we start actually, maybe doing this. There's a couple of places in town that I know of where I live, or the town that I live close to. Actually, there's a few towns that I live close to, and there's Square merchants there. There's actually quite a bit of food trucks that are popping up all around the place, and most of those guys have been taking Square for years, using the Square terminal. So this makes sense. So this is an important one. All of the URLs to all of the stories that I read every single day are in the show notes. Go find this one from Bitcoin Magazine, right? And it's entitled, Merchants Don't Read White Papers, They Read Cash Flow Statements. You will be able to go directly to all of the other URLs that are embedded in this story so that you can get your kit too. I hope you do it. I hope you're interested. It's time for us to stop allowing apathy. We've seen, I've talked about what apathy has done to the world so far. Do we want to continue on that road? I think not. But we're actually going to have to invest time and energy. We've got to click on a few buttons. We probably got to enter some kind of address to actually get one shipped to us. And then we got to go out and meet people. And that's becoming increasingly difficult. After COVID, the amount of introverted people, or people that I would identify as, I don't really like talking to other people. Maybe they did in the past and they literally forgot that they were extroverted. There's way more introversion going on right now. That is like throwing jet fuel on the fire of apathy. We've got to go out and talk to these people. It sucks that the timing of the Square launch of Bitcoin and this Bitcoin Merchants Kit came out at this time of year. Now that I'm thinking about it, this was not when you wanted to release this. When would have been a better time to release all this? Right when all of the farmer markets open, not when they're closed. Most of the farmer markets in the United States that are outdoor farmer markets, they're all closed. We're coming into winter, late fall, winter, it's cold. Nobody wants to go to the farmer's market. This shit should have launched late spring, early summer. Now we got to wait. We're not striking while the iron's hot is what I'm getting at. So we're going to have to do double duty. All right. So again, go find the URL, get into this news story, go hit the embedded URLs, get your kit, go talk to the people that you actually buy shit from. Moving on to OpenAI, who has unveiled GPT 5.1. It just gets better and better and better. Josh Quittner from decrypt.co says OpenAI today announced the release of GPT 5.1. It's an upgrade to the foundational large language model series. The update, which is now rolling out to users, featuring two models, the GPT 5.1 Instant and the Thinking version, focusing simultaneously on increased capability and improved conversational warmth. The company said the update aims to address user feedback that AI should not only be intelligent, but also enjoyable to interact with, positioning the new models as smarter, more conversational ChatGPT. The release is split across two primary use cases. The instant version is designated as ChatGPT's most used model. GPT 5.1 Instant has been optimized to be warmer by default and more conversational. The improvements include adaptive reasoning. For the first time, this widely used model can perform adaptive reasoning, allowing it to internally assess the complexity of a question and decide whether to engage in deeper processing before generating a response. And then there's a performance update. This whole adaptive capability has led to demonstrable improvements in high-stakes reasoning evaluations, including math and coding benchmarks such as AIME 2025 and Code Forces. And then there's instruction following. The model is also cited as being significantly better at reliably adhering to custom instructions and requested formats. Now, the thinking version is the other side of this. This upgrade to the advanced reasoning model, the GPT 5.1 Thinking, centers on efficiency and clarity. And using dynamic processing, the model now adapts its thinking time dynamically to the input. It spends considerably less time on simple tasks, making it roughly twice as fast on the quickest queries, while dedicating substantially more time to complex problems, enabling more persistent and thorough answers. Yeah, and it's also probably cheaper to OpenAI, but clarity, that's the other side of this. OpenAI notes that GPT 5.1 Thinking's responses are clearer, utilizing less jargon and fewer undefined terms, making its high capabilities more accessible to non-technical users. In parallel with the model upgrades, OpenAI is enhancing user control over the AI's personality and tone. New preset operations for conversational style, including professional, candid, and quirky, are being introduced, refining the previous tone controls. The company also announced an experiment to allow users to tune specific characteristics such as conciseness and emoji frequency directly from personalization settings. The rollouts begin today for paid subscribers before expanding to free users. Enterprise and education users will have a 7-day early access toggle before the new models become the sole default. An API integration for developers is slated to follow later this week. I've played with it. It's better than 5, but I honestly, a lot of times, if I'm doing something that's like more, I don't know, more personal, I still go back to chat 4.0, and I guess that's how you pronounce it, 4.0, which is still an option. They haven't taken that away, and you got to wonder why. Because 5, honestly, Sam Altman said, "Oh my God, I had a religious epiphany," or some kind of shit when he was talking to 5. I didn't get anything like that. I was like, dude, this model sucks. And I was pretty much centered on using 4.0 for almost damn near everything. Every once in a while, I'd accidentally be, interacting with the 5 model before I would have to switch to 4.0 or to the 4.0 model But I've been playing with this 5.1, specifically the thinking model. It's better. It's not great, and it's AI is AI. If you actually think that it's thinking or that it's actually intelligent, then you have been deluded, right? Whether it's you've been deluding yourself or been deluded by others, that's up to you to figure out. But no, these things don't actually think. They predict. In fact, it's sort of like a controlled hallucination, or not controlled. Let's call it directed hallucination. Chances are real good the hallucinations that is the core essence of what I find in AI will have some meaning to you, and it will actually make sense. There's nothing wrong with that. If it answers the question that you were asking or gives you insight into something that you weren't thinking about, I don't find a problem with that. But if you actually think that it's intelligent, self-aware, has a soul, actually, does any kind of real solid thinking itself, no, it doesn't. I don't actually believe that will ever happen. And if it does, we immediately start needing to talk about what does it mean to have a soul. And I am not about to enter into how many angels can dance on the head of a pin philosophical discussion right now. But if you think that 5.0 really sucked, you might give the 5.1s a shot. They're actually way better than the 5. Jury's still out as to whether or not I still like 4.0 better than 5.1, but so far, I've been putting it through like the tests that I think are applicable for me. It's pretty rock solid. Unlike this asshole, trader torches $3 million to punch a $5 million hole in Hyperliquid's vault. So the shitcoinery part of the show now begins, and this is just always a warning for people who think that maybe there's something better than Bitcoin. There's not. And Ezra Reguera will tell us why from Cointelegraph. A coordinated attack on Hyperliquid wiped out nearly $5 million from the protocol's hyperliquidity provider vault, when an unknown trader burned through $3 million in capital to manipulate the PopCat market and trigger cascading liquidations. Blockchain analytics company Look On Chain shared on Thursday that it all started when the attacker withdrew 3 million USDC, Circle stablecoin, from the OKX crypto exchange and split the funds into 19 fresh wallets. The trader then funneled those assets into Hyperliquid to open over $26 million in leveraged longs tied to Hype, the platform's PopCat-denominated perpetual contract. After this, the trader built a $20 million buy wall near the 21-cent price point. This became an artificially created signal of strength that pushed the market upward before the orders were canceled. When the wall collapsed, liquidity thinned as price support vanished. This meant that dozens of highly leveraged positions were forced into liquidation, and the HLP absorbed all of those losses. Hyperliquid's vault showed a $4.9 million loss in the aftermath, one of the largest single event hits incurred by the platform since its launch. Oh my God, these freaking people. While the attacker caused damage to Hyperliquid, the event revealed that the market manipulator's own $3 million of capital was completely wiped out. This suggested that the attacker's goal was structural damage rather than profit. The sequence represents a clear example of a trader intentionally setting fire to their very own capital to shock an on-chain derivatives venue, exploit its liquidity architecture, and stress test the limitations of an automated liquidity provider vault. The event differentiated itself from typical market manipulation incidents because the attacker did not exit the event with profits. Instead, the trade structure suggested that the entire goal was to create artificial liquidity and collapse it to drag Hyperliquid Vault into the liquidation cascade. Onlookers reacted to the move with varying sentiments. Yeah, I'll bet. A community member speculated that $3 million was hedged, suggesting that the attacker had positions locked in elsewhere. Another ex-user described the event as the costliest research ever. Another community member suggested that the event was not an attack, but rather a $3 million performance art piece. Quote, "Only in crypto do villains burn millions for the plot," the ex-user wrote. Meanwhile, a community member described it as peak degen warfare, where an attacker exploited the automated liquidity provider's absorption. The ex-user said, "This was a reminder that perpetual markets without sturdy liquidity buffers are open season for anyone willing to, quote, light money on fire," end quote. This is ridiculous. On Thursday, community member J. Gorgon or something reported that the Hyperliquid bridge had stopped processing withdrawals. The developer said that the contract was paused using the vote emergency lock function, indicating that the team had initiated precautionary measures against potential manipulations. After about an hour, the developer reported that the platform started processing withdrawals again. Hyperliquid did not issue any official announcement linking the PopCat incident to temporary freezes on withdrawals. So another shitcoin platform and protocol gets wiped out, this time at the hands of somebody who just doesn't care. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about their own money. Maybe he was hedged on some other platform. Makes sense to me, but just the thought of the potential that this shit doesn't work, he probably would have lost that $3 million anyway, and hedging on someplace else wouldn't have helped, because the whole gambit, it was almost as if he's like, okay, he wrote it. I can see this guy writing a flow chart of what he's going to do, given what he knows about Hyperliquid, and comes up with a plan, and all these pieces of this plan all have to execute the way he thinks they're going to execute, or she, whatever. I honestly doubt that it's a woman. Why? Because women are not that fucking stupid. Men, there's no wonder why we die earlier than women do, but I digress. This is probably a dude who thinks that all these things are going to happen. And in this case, all these things did happen. But what if he was wrong? It wouldn't have mattered where he had hedged. The chances are good he still would have lost that $3 million. So it's still a $3 million gamble. To do what? If he was hedged and he actually is in profit from somewhere else, like on some other exchange looking at this, then maybe we can simply say the whole goal was to make profit. But I don't think that's what this was. There's too much thought that goes into this. And if he was hedged, could he be hedged by enough where he doesn't have to work another day in his life? I don't know. I mean, that's completely mass to me. But the potential to lose $3 million, engaging in that kind of degenerate behavior is sick. Honestly, this, and I see this all over even traditional finance. It's almost as if the entire financial structure of the world is run by people who are sick, which shouldn't surprise you. You're probably nodding your head going, well, duh. I mean, at a fundamental psychological level, the people that are in legacy finance that engage in this kind of behavior, which I think is actually most of them, if they were to find themselves in any other venue, in any other structure, in any other institution, that they would not be hired, or their behavior would not be tolerated for very long. But not here. Not in finance. And some of the shit that we've seen over the past few decades, if not the past few centuries, leads me to ask a major question that I will leave you with. Why are we not dragging people into the streets? What is it about our apathy that is so strong that we just allow people to run around and set buildings on fire. Just allow the arsonists to run free and wild and somehow or another get fooled into protecting their very existence. When I bring up anything that shines light on the misfeasance and the malfeasance of this structure, I get met with resistance. And that resistance always comes in the form of, do you have an economics degree? Are you on the board of the Fed? Are you a banker at a major bank? Then I'm not listening to you. Even though every single fucking person just mentioned is one of the goddamn psychopaths running around setting shit on fire, shouldn't we stop them? Why are we protecting them? Is there not enough room in the street for all the bodies that we drag out into it before we give them the what for? And I will let you ruminate on the what for is in your own mind. I prescribe nothing other than stopping people from burning down buildings. It's not healthy to burn down buildings. It's not healthy to allow other people to burn down buildings. It's not healthy to only have the reaction of trying to put out the fire with water. There's something very, 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 very wrong in what we've allowed to happen. So let that ruminate in your head. And remember, apathy is throwing jet fuel on the fires that brought us here in the first place. So go get the Bitcoin Merchants Kit, that earlier story that I was talking about, and do the work. Go talk to the vendors that you buy from. Go find new vendors that use Square. Let's see what we can do. I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.